There are few things in this world that can't be improved by giant robots. Vehicles, general television shows, and the DMV are just a few examples from the list, but there's something else on there that you may not expect, and that is golf. We take a quick peek at 100-foot robot golf. 100-foot robot golf is a golf game where you play as 100-foot robots, obviously. It was developed by No Goblin and is their second fully released title after Roundabout in 2014. Roundabout was full of arcading mechanics and ridiculous circumstances along with a decent sense of humor, which are both things that were brought over to robot golf, for better or for worse. Neither golf games nor giant robot games are all that new. Computer golf, or the Magnavox Odyssey 2 back in 1978, is the earliest golf game I could find, while everything from Gundam to MechWarrior and the multiplayer Hawken have been around for quite a while. During that time, however, no one's really put the two ideas together. That is, until now. There's a surprising amount of story for robot golf as it purposefully leans into the cliches of giant robots as they're portrayed in media, basically with Japan and anime. From the animated Gigantor to Suitmation shows like Johnny Suko and the Flying Robot, basically shows where people in suits pretend to be giants, Japan has had a fascination with large robotic devices and over the years have brought them to other countries through translations and dubs, which is all very important for robot golf. You see, the game's story is told through animated cutscenes that are specifically made to parody low-budget and poorly animated Japanese cartoons as they were introduced to the United States around the 1980s or so. Individual character and background artwork is fine and fits the designs usually associated with Japanese animation, while it also constantly reuses background images and has extremely limited animation outside of mouths moving when characters talk. And boy, do they talk! For as out there as the idea of giant robots playing golf is, No Goblin really likes to beat you over the head with it, with how they wrote the story and all the dang dialogue that goes with it.
I'm just glad I got here first. I have a deal for you. I work at NGBL. Have you heard of us?
Oh, the robot golf people?
There are multiple different kinds of robots to play as in the game, everything from a submarine-looking thing controlled by a used car salesman to a headless robot piloted by a guy named Mason who's just a head in a jar. Get it? Mason. Jar. Clever. Each pilot has their own part of the main campaign, and the story jumps around from character to character, which wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't for the game's voice acting. With No Goblin's previous game Roundabout, they used live-action full-motion video cutscenes to get any kind of plot across. The actors in these scenes, however, were seemingly picked at random after the company advertised a sign-up sheet where anyone could enter for a chance to be in the game. This meant that the people in these cutscenes were mostly not actual actors, and their performances ranged from okay to pretty bad. I don't think the devs did the same thing for Robot Golf, but the quality of acting presented in the game is pretty much the same.
That's only 40% of the pilots we're seeing in my Project C reports.
What's the percentage on fur cleanups this week, Captain? What's your report say about that?
We're out of time.
Voices don't match their characters and come off as mostly unprofessional, with the overall production quality for voice work being rather mediocre. These performances are rather off-putting, and combined with the long-windedness of some cutscenes, takes whatever kind of comedy the game was going for and just rips the humor right out of it. This isn't the case for the entire cast, though, as the golf announcers actually do a pretty good job parodying their role.
I think, if I'm reading this correctly, it is 5 dogs piloting 5 dog robots that have formed one very big dog robot. I may have to excuse myself for the remainder of this match because, if you'll remember, I'm very afraid of dogs. I'm actually 5 cats. Inside of a skin suit. I wanted to buy an R-rated movie ticket. Well, we did. The 5 cats, I mean.
No Goblin got the three McElroy brothers, who apparently have some kind of podcast online, while two of them do work for gaming news website Polygon. I'm unfamiliar with their work outside of this game, but they have some good back and forth going on with their commentary. The three of them will chime in throughout a match as players move around the course, and they'll react to just about everything you do, from hitting the ball to swatting down an airplane.
Now, I'm looking at the manifest here, and it looks like that plane was full of grandmas flying to a place called Birthday Island, so I hope you feel good about that one.
There's supposed to be three of them, but honestly, I only ever really hear two, and even at that, sometimes they sound like the same person just doing a variation of their own voice. I honestly only realized there was a third commentator when he showed up in a cutscene. While they are rather entertaining, them constantly talking every time the player hits the golf ball or does much of anything means that they quickly run out of unique lines and start repeating themselves. Hitting said ball in 100-foot robot golf is rather important since it's, after all, a golf game, and that's part of the problem. Throughout the game, I found its overall physics to feel very floaty, which made it difficult to predict how the ball would act. None of the controls felt all that solid, be it teeing off, putting on the green, or even just walking around as the robot. There's a real lack of feedback from movement to keep things grounded to the world, and it kinda came off feeling more like Goat Simulator, a game specifically left unpolished in the hopes of getting laughs instead of a normal golf game. Then again, unlike other golf games, this one has players actually walk to where their ball went instead of automatically putting them there after they hit the ball, which plays into the different game modes it has. There are two main ways to play robot golf, and I'm not entirely sure of the variation on both of them. There's what seems to be racing, where whoever gets in the hole first, regardless of how many shots they take, seems to win, as well as playing solo, which takes into account how many shots you use to get the ball in the hole.
A great shot by Suzume.
Honestly, with the first one, I really can't tell if it matters how much you hit the ball, or if it's just if you go in the hole first. It seems to be whoever gets in the hole first wins, but for being a golf game, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Having to walk your robot to wherever the ball is plays into the racing part, since there are a few things that you can do to affect the other competitors. Each robot has some kind of weapon as well as a charge ability they can use within a match. Weapons range from shooting lasers to throwing a sword or dashing a short distance, and can be used to push around opponents or destroy buildings to clear areas to hit across. I mean, there's no reason to hit your ball around a building if you can just blow it up and go through it. Although destroyed buildings don't ever fully disappear, nor do they fully crumble, so they can easily litter a field with debris that can make it difficult to navigate. Pushing around opponents won't damage them, and there's sadly no way to outright destroy the competition, but it can put them in inconvenient places, letting you get to your ball first in hopes of getting to the hole first to win. The AI in the game isn't all that great, however, and I found a couple of times where they kinda just got stuck, hitting the ball the same way over and over again, unable to make any progress. For the most part, though, weapons are kind of pointless, since anything that can be destroyed with them can also just be destroyed by hitting it with a golf club. Charge abilities aren't much better. While every kind of robot has a different charge ability, they don't really do anything. One robot can make the ball bounce after it lands, but it doesn't do a whole lot to help since there's no way to know where it's going to go, and most of the time, it just doesn't work. Another bot can turn the golf ball into a disco ball, which does absolutely nothing from what I can tell. The only real difference between the robots that affects gameplay is how they go about actually hitting the ball. Each one has a different sort of mini-game power meter to affect how the ball is hit and how accurate it'll be to where players aimed it, but I mostly found it difficult to determine what did what. Some robots have a basic power meter that's very similar to what you would see in other golf games, where you first determine how hard to hit it and then you determine how accurate it'll be. But other ones need you to rev an engine and keep a needle in a specific spot on its speedometer, while others have two power bars that need to be synced up in order to do what you want. From what I played, the game always told me where on the meters I needed to hit it in order to make the shot that I wanted to make. And even with that, it was still up in the air to whether or not the ball would go where I aimed it. There's a small bit of fine-tuning that can be done when aiming to try and get a bit more of distance out of your swing, but there's only 3 clubs to pick from: a driver for hitting normally, a wedge for getting out of a sand trap, or a putter for putting the ball into the hole. And there's really not a whole lot you can do to affect what's going on besides pointing in a direction, hitting the ball, and hoping for the best. During the campaign, there are a few interesting challenges to complete, such as playing 4-player split screen by yourself while controlling all 4 players at the same time, and the game does have both on and offline multiplayer, but I was unable to connect to anyone online to try that out. Overall, 100-Foot Robot Golf isn't a good golf game and isn't a very good giant robot game. At no point during my playthrough of it did I really feel like I had control of what I was doing, nor felt like I was really in a giant robot at any time. There just isn't any weight to the actions and everything's too floaty to feel all that responsive. Regardless of the location of the course you're on, be it in a city, underwater, or on the flippin' moon, both the robots and golf balls have the same feeling to them. You would imagine that hitting a golf ball in space would make sense for it to feel floaty, or possibly underwater, but it feels the same regardless, and it's just not what you want for a game like this. The best thing the game has going for it really is just the concept, as it seems to be a good setup for a ridiculous and fun game. But sadly, No Goblin just didn't deliver on this one, and their attempts at humor don't do enough to save it. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think about the game or this video in the comments section. I'm a MegapieMan, and I'll talk to you guys later.
I've been horribly burned by the soup I was eating because the party ball made me start dancing.
Want to see more of my stuff? Click on the video on the left for freaking awesome guns and games, where I talk about some freaking awesome guns in video games. Or click on the video on the right for Raiders of the Broken Planet, a free-to-play third-person co-op shooter.